can't make it legal.
Yeah.
People will go crazy. If you made like cigarettes illegal, and alcohol illegal, we can't really do it now because we'll go fucking crazy.
Oh wow!
Mate.
It has like a delay effect.
You can hear the delay too. Yeah.
I'm gonna put some headphones in.
So you can mute the computer because we don't need to hear the computer.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, because it's coming out of that.
So this you can mute the computer. I'm just gonna put headphones in because I don't know how to do that. It's probably a very simple way of doing it, but I just can't do it right now because I'm an invalid.
It's like when Reaper has metronome off the.
Yeah.
But we don't need to hear it. So it's fine.
Is the audio still? The audio looks like it's still working. So.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And the live chat is. This is very interesting.
The audio is moving, isn't it, when you're speaking, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
This is more of a test for everyone. Now we can see if we can actually do this. But it looks nice.
Yes, it looks nice.
Welcome to Long Live Podcast. I'm James Ridenwald, as your frequent host, and I'm with Jack Carroll, my trusty sidekick. And we are testing out the live stream format, but we thought obviously there should be a podcast to actually go along with it. Yeah. We had a few ideas on what to talk about. I had a conversation with, and yeah, the title of this podcast is The Foundations of Concepts. And I have regular conversations with this friend of mine called Rachel, and there's a regular theme that seems to be about sort of how we sort of pervert ourselves to sort of appeal to some sort of ideal notion of ourselves, and ends up getting in the way of who we really can be in our sort of boundless nature. And this is an Alcoholics Anonymous book that she the book,
which is where the term came from.
Alcoholics Anonymous actually came from one book by one guy called what's the guy's name? I forget.
It's going to be inside.
It's going to be inside somewhere.
His name is.
It's like a really simple. It's like Mark Wills or something. I don't know what it is. Bloody hell, who knows?
He really doesn't want to be known. He's anonymous.
He's anonymous.
So I'm going to try to find out while you continue the introduction. I'll try to find out the dude's name.
I'm sure people can look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
His name's not here.
well, the interesting thing about the conversation was that she was sort of telling me that it was kind of like a spiritual, it's like a metaphysical thing. It's not about drinking too much, it's about being an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And being an alcoholic is a very different thing to simply drinking too much. It's like this sort of... It's this whole thing that can tie right into... You're not even drinking, you can be sort of the alcoholic mindset without even drinking. You can be, you can be addicted to your emotions. You can be addicted to anything else. You can be addicted to certain thoughts. You can be addicted to OCD or pure.
Is that kind of like the concepts that might be kind of like attached to things that you'd associate drinking alcohol with? Is that what
it's this kind of longing for something.
To that.
It's this
time
kind of,
when it was enjoyable.
Well, I don't think so. I think it's more than that. I think it's this kind of like, I don't know. I mean, we were sort of only touching on the subject, but it seems to be more of like this kind of longing for a certain like idea that doesn't exist in the real world, like the idea that like a drink is going to like add to your life, or the idea.
Right. Yeah.
I don't. It's a weird way.
It would improve.
But I mean, yeah.
It's kind of like when you go out and you're socialising with friends. You might have the preconception that you're supposed to get drunk because it makes the event more enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of talk on it about like, for example, ego. Like, I read a bit where they say we are average Americans to sort of imply that they aren't superior to other people because they've made sort of roads towards this. There's this kind of, I mean, in the way I sort of try to lingualize it, there's a kind of nothingness that is essential to the world and should be essential to the human condition, but we try and fill our lives up with something, whether it's alcohol or tobacco or
Concepts,
you know, yeah, or concepts, or like, you know, even ideas of who we are can very quickly become possessive if they aren't always possessive. And it was just interesting to talk about, because I sort of write about the training of self as opposed to like, you know, sort of the concept, how the concept of identity causes us to be chained by, you know, chained into certain concepts of ourselves. Even if the concepts of ourselves are positive, you know, Rachel had this idea, like, you know, when I'm a musician, it helps my esteem, and I'm like, yeah, but imagine a situation in which you're being forced to like make corporate music, and you sort of say, well, I'm a musician, therefore this is what I should do, you know, and like you really just want to go be a rice farmer in India or something, but you can't. But like the thing is that we even if we give ourselves positive attributes, like if I were to be like, oh, I'm a podcast maker, it sort of gives me this sort of compulsion to make podcasts.
It comes up with the connotations, of course, right? So I suppose you can get clouded too much in a concept plus what it's supposed to mean for you as a person.
Yeah,
that can be taken away from that. I guess like a natural kind of progression of what acting with your, I don't know, the identity that you have. You want to act in kind of a way that is natural to that identity, rather than saying, if I'm a podcaster, I've got to do this, or if I'm an artist, I've got to create art in a particular way.
Absolutely, yeah. It's this certain. It really removes any notion of spontaneity.
Yeah.
I have to like, you know, there's no room for that.
That's a big thing, I suppose.
Even when we talk about
acting
ourselves
subconsciously, right?
Yeah. When we talk about ourselves in like any way at all, we end up removing spontaneity. We end up sort of saying, well,
you're becoming too conscious of it. You think?
Yeah,
in that sense.
It's sort of like it's like a conceptual consciousness, I think, of just this kind of like. I have to take a bit of water in a second. That's alright.
Yeah, it's a good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. My best memories are always moments when I have felt completely removed from myself in that certain, like, you know, like in this certain sort of not sort of mature, sort of Ouroboros kind of childlike way, when I'm like, you know, moments when I've sort of been in this sort of, say, this strange house in Helsinki with this guy I didn't know at all. It was actually kind of dangerous when you think about it, but I was like looking at the canal and all the buildings, and we were playing music until 7 in the morning, drinking, and like you had to get up at 8 in the morning you had to go to university, and I had to, you know, meet someone to get the coach back to help us back to Tampere, which is where I lived at the time. And I was just like, that moment I was just like, I am whatever I want to be.
You're kind of just acting like saying yes, I suppose, right? Just kind of letting the life take you where it's supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, this is the weird thing, because like in other situations, of course, that would be like a very
just
strange,
kind of breaking out your comfort zone. Right?
Yeah, breaking your comfort zone as well. Yeah.
What's the worst concept?
What's the worst concept? I don't know. It's the one that strangles you the most. Like,
I suppose one that stops you acting how you want to.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what is the? You know, it's a strange thing when you talk about what you want to do, because I don't think we ever really. There's a sort of. It's very rare that we actually have the ability to know what we want to do. Like, it comes around for me like only a few times a year, and it's kind of, you know. But with my psychosis, I feel like it might actually come around more for me than most other people. You know, that people are very embedded in their work, or how much money they make, or their
that was
partners.
the point you made about watching a number go up with your bank account. Although you might have the concept of financial security behind it, in one form, there's still being chained by the idea that like the money controls your happiness, because the more that you've got, the more secure you are for a big purchase you might need to make, such as like an uninsured funeral, or your car breaks down and you've got to like use that car to get to work, for example, or paying back a loan, or you've got debts or something like that.
Yeah, and the car was the thing that was meant to bring you happiness. breakfast, and then the thing is that
It's just
that
attached
that
to
was
going to work now.
You know,
Yeah.
And now I'm going to go to work with the car. And the work, oh god, when I first got the job, I was very happy. But I'm not quite happy anymore. You know, just it's if there, you know, it seems that there's no real formula for like developing it. I think like maybe formulas themselves are like the actual prevention of those sorts of great moments of life. But I don't know, like it's awful hippie talk. By the way, if you can hear us, do type in the chat saying yes, we can hear you, because I don't want to be talking not like with the microphone on mute. I don't trust completely that the input capture is working.
I think your mic's been mute the whole time, actually.
Mute the whole time.
I don't know, because there's two different.
There's two. That's the aux.
It should be
Let
okay.
me see.
Because I think what's going up. Watch it on another video. I mean, on
But we did hear ourselves. Remember? We did hear ourselves, didn't we? Yeah. And I'm assuming Marcus would have said something by now, because I know Marcus was watching.
If you were to like go to the live video and just have a listen through the earphones.
So. Hold on.
If you were to like go to the
Yeah. It's
go
working.
on to the Obi. Oh, okay, that's working.
That was just me. That was me putting the headphones in, because it's like delayed by like a few seconds.
Yeah.
So it is working, and I'd assume that like some.
Maybe.
You can hear us. Okay. Read comments in the chat. I'll just like I said, this is all a test.
Maybe.
So,
Yeah. Most of your books about concepts, right?
Most of it, yeah. Most of it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Hello,
Mark.
Grab a paragraph, maybe, or a topic to sort of just like
Okay, that sounds good.
go over.
There's a weird buzz apparently.
When did you first think about concepts being things that do change us? Did you have a concept yourself which held you back?
It was sort of like a, I don't know, it was sort of like a weird.
Would you say some of the psychotic kind of like delusions you'd have about like knowing some like the pizza thing, for example, the plastic pizza.
Yeah.
You knew it's not true that it's going to have like plastic in it, but you've got the delusion that it's something's wrong there. Would you say that's a concept in some way? In that there's a package of if I eat this pizza, there could be this consequence of plastic being cooked in it.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Oh, you mean in my example?
Does that kind of did that maybe spring the idea of like there are thoughts which hold us back? Let's say.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a weird one. With psychosis, the thing is that like your sort of conceptual frameworks go sort of completely out of whack to the point where like your sort of conceptual structures are completely out of whack with someone else's conceptual structures, and you sort of realize, okay, what are these conceptual structures? But that was sort of combined with the sort of moments of like great purity when I was, in some moments which sort of came after the psychosis, and I was sort of already studying about Buddhism and sort of enlightenment and stuff, which was sort of all about the lack of concepts. But I was sort of really thrown out of whack when I began to get psychosis. And as a result, all sort of things that I took for granted, such as, how to, how to just think about yourself, or how to think about other people, or how to speak, and how to swallow, were all just completely, like, fucked up. And that was a very strange...
I suppose that could give you... It can maybe give you a different insight, can't it? Because if you... if there's a struggling about kind of the simplicity of just simply like swallowing, which is normally unconscious to most people when they eat or drink. It's kind of, is it maybe like resetting your, you're kind of like coming back to quite a basic form to think you've got to like, not relearn how to like swallow, for example, but it's just sort of like, it will make you very aware of the fact that you're doing those things subconsciously.
Yeah.
Because I suppose you always have, until now, then gaining psychosis and thinking, it changes kind of like your perspective on yourself and the world.
The world.
The world.
I mean, like, it's like brain chemicals, you know. You shouldn't realize that dopamine is actually is in your brain until you start. You shouldn't realize the sort of the obviousness of dopamine in your brain until it starts to go irregular, you know. And I think in the same way, you shouldn't realize. I mean, it's in the same way. It's difficult to realize conceptual structures, especially within like sort of straight closed off people who sort of know what's what, until something gets pulled away from them. I was never really like that anyway. I was sort of like a kid with like a crazy imagination, but I definitely I definitely sort of had this like idea of what was what, and then I started taking drugs recreationally, and then that just sort of threw everything out. I was like, well, what does it even mean to be in a field with another human being? You know, what does it? But like that can send you a bit nuts. But you can sort of find a middle ground, I think, between sort of just being insane and sort of being so rigidly, fascistically caught up in concepts, which is what most people are. I think if people were more on the insane type of people, perhaps I would talk about the wonders of creating concepts. But I think it's a prescriptive thing. I think we are generally a very conceptually fascistic culture, and you know, and so many utterances from the government manipulating language to sort of come across to people as if, you know, like, I don't know, Extinction Rebellion protesters are extremists, or these people are terrorists, or all these sorts of, like, all the way from that to the sort of rhetoric of why haven't you got a job yet, or the rhetoric that might be a bad. I mean, the rhetoric of, you know, time is money.
I can see
or the
how
rhetoric.
it links to our usage of language. Actually, that's quite relevant. I think I've gone over actually. I suppose with you can obviously use the sort of term extremist to kind of carry all of these sunglasses at 2 a.m. It's part of the,
We thought it'd be like kind of fun.
Gimmick. So we've got the light to like shine as well. Looks nice. So yeah, like you could the government could label something as extreme, like you were saying, whether or not that's true. Yeah. Extreme comes with its package of other things that it's related to. Like extremist is a word that's you obviously use against terrorists as well. Yeah, so exactly. there's that little link to say extreme is going to kind of borderline on actually committing like acts of terror and crime and shit like that.
And it is strange, and the fact that people can be so easily swayed just by the term sort of
euphemisms.
Sort of shows that we really do kind of have not this sort of awareness of how powerful language is and how,
it just kind of
how out of our grasp it is, you know.
You can don't know if you can relate it to, like, I suppose hate speech in a way would have offensive terms like that, and slurs would carry their packages as well. And weirdly, over time, some of those subcultures are kind of like words themselves has changed over time as well. I remember you reading that book about etymology, and there's the word naughty, and technically children's apathy for it's kind of, I guess I'll have to explain. Back in the day, apparently naughty would kind of come from naught, like meaning that you are nothing. So you'd call someone naughty to say, or not to say that like they're not even human, right? They're below considering somebody who actually has like a worthwhile opinion. I don't know, something like along those lines. So if you were to, I suppose it's similar to like calling someone evil. If you were to say like you're not a human, you're not as most humans would have some kind of like compassion for their fellow man. But if you're acting in a way that's totally terrible, it's you are therefore naughty or not human or whatever. Not the same as us in terms of ethics or whatever. So you're kind of like, over the time, calling kids naughty has then devalued that word because kids don't even kind of like consider
Kids
that
don't take it seriously.
right. Kids, yeah, exactly, take it seriously.
Yeah.
There's way more examples, of course. There's when you're a kid, you don't really care about fucking anything a lot of the time. Obviously, to an extent. So, where I was trying to go with that is that we could break out of it, obviously, with how words are, what they carry with them.
Yeah.
It's down to the social kind of construct as to how it's used in day-to-day life. I suppose a bit of a modern example would be like the word slut. You've got like now slut shaming is kind of like the idea to say don't put down someone for expressing themselves sexually.
Interestingly, I want you to continue. Interestingly, slut shamer has become the new insult.
That's of course.
Exactly.
That's the new insult. Right.
Slut is actually not like a.
Now that's
it's not a powerful insult anymore.
100%.
In some, you have to, depending on some circles.
And that comes from the context around it, the packages around it, because I suppose the stigma that they can carry is things like, with a woman, I suppose they're the ones becoming pregnant, so they would kind of have to. We might have thought that they're the ones who need to take like more responsibility on it, and then I suppose culture has then changed into a way to say no, the man is also having sex, so it's going to be a 50-50 kind of like idea on things like protection, child protection. What's it called? Sorry, birth control rather, protection and STDs prevention, stuff like that. So I suppose culture would change, kind of just like how a word actually affects somebody. You can't really call someone a slut now with it be having the same amount of like power, exactly the same amount of insult as it would like 20 years ago or something.
Yeah. I think what's important is why are you saying it, or like are we finding virtue?
Trying to devalue the person, aren't you?
Well, I mean in a wider context of like where am I saying it? Am I saying it to a person who's genuinely being slut shamed? Am I saying it to an idea of someone on a social media website? Why am I saying it in this particular moment in time as opposed to a few years later, a few years before, when social issues change? But the language,
subconsciously as well, about thinking about why you said it.
Exactly, and there's all of that as well. And the question is like, are we're not doing it in a vacuum. We're doing it in. I had something to say. We're doing it in a particular context, and the question is whether that context is valuable, and also whether the thing about language is that language presents itself as permanent. This is the thing.
Even though it's
constructed, it constantly changes, but it looks permanent in the same way that mathematics looks permanent.
Yeah, because I suppose when you're young, you learn the alphabet, and it's like that's the alphabet.
That is the alphabet.
Interestingly, can't remember what language it is. I think it might be Japanese. Weird. They've like removed 2 letters since many like years ago or whatever, because they just become obsolete. I suppose you could maybe like the way that your accents are and things like that, like you'd say some people say British, but some people might say British. Hypothetically, that T might get removed, for example, or Finnish doesn't use a letter C, right?
Yes.
They just use K.
Yeah.
Because it's we could do the same thing.
S to put in correspondence to how it's pronounced, because C does both. But yeah.
Because the thing is, we would say like a word with a C in it, like succeed. You could just spell that as like SUKSEED, not even double E, something like that. Like it might.
They would pronounce it. They would write it as SUKSEED. I think that's how they'd write it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like kind of like what I'm alluding to is the alphabet. You've said it before that the alphabetical order is actually just conditioned, which is I find quite funny. You can look at the alphabet in the wrong order, and like, why is it wrong? Because we've been told that you're supposed to have an A before a B, whereas that doesn't even matter for how you're reading a word.
No.
No.
It just alludes.
It just gives you like this is how to learn it or something.
Yeah, it is just kind of like we can pretend that the order of the alphabet doesn't, for example, like those sorts of conceptual structures don't have a hole in us, and we really are free people. But I really doubt that. I really think that we are very conditioned and conditioned by conceptual structures. And
I suppose that's the way. Yeah, that's actually got me thinking about how that's the alphabet's not real as such, but we're still chained to think that there's an order to it, or correct pronunciations off of
And
like
even-
just how
Yeah.
we've created them as a society, or
And even going back to words, we think that the words are permanent insofar as their meanings are permanent, and that's not true either. And
you can say something's bad, I mean it's good.
Yeah, right.
Like badass, or
and you can say that the thou is the same meaning as you, but thou and thee were
we don't use
divided up.
and then we don't even use it that anymore. It's like it's just
anymore.
evolved to something else now.
Yeah, but the fact is, like, you know, we can say, oh well, you know, these English languages still had the same meaning, but but as the fact they have changed over time, there's the big question my book wants to offer is not just the fact that these language structures change, because that's pretty apparent already, but what's the reality below it all, and how can we gauge that experience, you know?
Because if it's changing all the time, it would kind of imply that it's not.
No,
it's not real because it's not set in stone.
No.
So the same way that like mathematics are, we know that there's an order to like, this is one lighter, and then there's this is another lighter. It's not a lighter. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter anyway, does it? Because
two objects.
Yeah, they're two objects, of course. Yeah, we know that that's actually real, as it were.
Yeah.
Although then again, you could
to
say
a certain extent.
To a certain extent, you could say that the numbers that are used to represent it aren't real.
Yeah.
You've got Roman numerals, which will go from like 1 to then 2 and then like 3.
Yeah.
Whereas we want to imply, or Arabic numbers would imply that like 2, even though it's one little writing, it still implies 2.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah,
technically not real, is it? Because it's just a symbol pointing to the actual unit.
my sort of question, it is that kind of. I mean, like, there's a debate on whether mathematics is being discovered or being invented. And that's kind of something. I mean, I'm a little interested in, but I'm not like that interested. I mean, like that what we're saying is very interesting, and like, I think the question. I mean, there's a big question of like, you know, what experiences are actually true experiences? You know, subjective, subjective in the truth, the truth in the subjective sense, like. Of like, you know, what experiences can I actually have and have my cake and eat it too? This kind of like, you know, these sorts of these sort of important experiences or whatever that can't be defined by language, and you know, I still have a reality nonetheless. Something that isn't like conditioned into me, something that isn't like, you know, something that hasn't been like taught to me or whatever. By like some external source, just, you know,
whom has got it from another external source anyway? Because like we speak English based off of our ancestors speak English based off of our ancestors speaking a slightly different English, such as like German or Latin and some of our Anglo-Saxon shit, and it's just it's not real because in a way because it's not set in stone. It's not to say like because it will change in like 1,000 years. We'll speak a different style of English. As well, and then like in that book, 1984.
But I think most experiences, conscious or unconscious, have nothing to do with these language and concepts, these sort of lingualizations and conceptualizations, or these structures or whatever, because when we're actually, you know, there's the, you know, we are just obsessed with attributing art, like superficial meaning to experiences of this, you know, this kind of like, oh well, the tea is hot, therefore it's bad, or like you know, there's never actually that experience of you finding yourself in the world drinking what we call a tea. That kind of experience is very is very ephemeral and can't be pinned down, and most experiences of this nature actually are. There's an interesting thing about a sort of inheritance of language over time, and like even that has to be based on particular structures of language. For example, we can't actually be taught anything unless we imply that things are inherently separate in the first place. Like you know, like you know, the idea that, you know,
so it's the top of the table is different to the legs of the
yeah,
table.
right. Or,
even though German would say that.
Or we talk about ourselves as like, you know, individuals and this sort of like, you know, that respect other classmates or whatever. And this actually is
rather than you all being in the class.
Right, exactly.
We're all a collective class.
Exactly.
All a collective class. Sorry.
And there are lots of these implicit sort of notions about like,
based on like language being, as I write in the book, separate, dominant judging, virtue dominant judging, aspiring for subjective betterness, validity, agreeable. I sort of write them a bit better in the book, but the idea that when you teach a child at a very young age respect the other classmates, for example, you actually imply you're sort of making the implication of the child who's very influential, easily influenced, that that they're separate from the class, and that there isn't actually there's not anything in the world that can really really sort of points to that in the sense that we're talking about. Like in other cultures, they
I suppose immediately that you say you,
yeah,
I would like you to respect the other classmates,
exactly.
rather than kind of, I suppose one sort of way you could do it is to say, you might, I don't know if you can say you or not, that's gonna maybe it's slightly contradictory, but you can say that you are part of the class.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then that's it. You probably don't even need to say then respect the other people there, because it should just be, if you're part of the class, disrespecting the others in the class is disrespecting yourself as like a collective, because it's not gonna get you any further in said class.
I might challenge you a bit there and sort of say, is there actually any way to talk about yourself as being joining the class? Because you can't even mention the subject, because you're saying by mentioning the subject. And I'm saying this is universal across all mature
You'd have to
language.
sort of like push them in and just say, this is the class, and then the implication is kind of already there that you're
exactly. And
it's like saying this is the world, and you know you're part of the world.
The only way you can actually solve the problem is by stopping acknowledging there's a person there.
Yeah.
This is the only thing. And another one, for example, the fifth function is in the which you read in the Lingual Instinct, if anyone reads the book, deliberate action for aspiration for deliberate change and subjective betterness. It's something like that. But when someone says, "Hey, today we're going to learn addition or whatever in the class," you're always going to imply, oh, there's something better coming along when we've done the lesson. This again has no actual. We're not deriving this from the real world.
Today is separate to tomorrow.
Saying that, and you're also saying tomorrow will be better from today because we've learned more. That's that.
And you're progressing.
And you're progressing, and this is
in a linear format rather than sort of dynamic.
Right. There's no. It's this linear kind of. This linear kind of idea of progression that is all encoded in just the phrase "today we're going to learn addition." You actually have to. Include the aspiration for subjective betterness in this sort of speaking, and I think all speaking. And again, there's no actual sort of thing in the world that says, "Oh, we're all progressing towards something," or like, and it's funny we're using classes.
Apply it to like other sorts of learning as well. If you're learning an instrument, your misconception could be that you're getting better at the instrument, whereas it's more so, I know the major scale.
Yeah.
Now I know, like, I can make a composition.
Yeah.
And it's going, it's a bit more like. It's got different. I saw a picture of it that was kind of like the misconception is that this is the beginning and then this is the end, whereas really it's up and down and there's milestones here and there. Okay. It's a journey that you're taking.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. All right, exactly.
What were you going to say before?
No, exactly. No. I mean, it's definitely not a linear stage. Although, but if you were to package it into like a 10-lesson course, it does look linear.
Yeah, because you're learning this thing, and then you're learning the better thing. Now the better thing that you needed preparation from the other thing to get to. Whereas when you're learning an instrument, you could have, like, as an example, learning an instrument, you can learn loads of different fucking things that you want to do. You can, if you're a drummer, you can learn to just fucking blast beat really hard. Forever, and build all that up, or you might want to pause and then learn polyrhythms and separation between limbs, and then you might want to learn, whatever. You just learn what you want to learn, doesn't it? It's not like
There's no.
I kind of like to think that like a lot of artists, art as a films and music and stuff like that. I would like to think that there's not really as such a. You could say better or worse, I suppose, in terms of like your opinion of like what you prefer, but it's a bit tricky to sort of say like one guitarist is better than the other because they come from different sort of paths that have led them into different styles or stuff like that. And then that really should be applied to every other sort of form of progression, such as learning a language when you're a kid and growing up and learning English as an English kid. You're going to learn kind of all these different aspects that it's not, like it's kind of rambling. It's not going to be linear. Whereas if you're saying, oh great, you're getting better, that's kind of implying that there's just one bar. Whereas you should be like, you're getting better at this. But then again, I don't know. That's probably splitting up and making too many concepts again that way, isn't it? It's tricky.
Well, we should. I mean, the thing about I'll come back to the thing I was going to say, but we both should know when to divide things up into new concepts, and we always need to learn when to leave it the fuck alone, and just be like, these are just tools. We need to think of them as tools. We can't think of them as like personalities in our head. This is the problem with conceptualizations. But I was going to say that it's very interesting that we're talking about classmates when talking about aspiration for subjective betterness, because when you're a kid, there is that definite kind of thing that's drilled into you.
Competitiveness.
Well, the linear stage of because I'm in year one.
And you know what they do? They say like, how old are you? And it's like, I'm 4.5 because I'm almost 5. Yeah, it's like now later on you don't care about it.
I'm almost 5.
But for them, for kids, it has a package. When you wouldn't say that you're 24 and is it 24? 24 and like, an eighth or whatever. 0.8, sorry.
Okay. I'm 23 and.
But when a kid is like, I'm 4 and this many months, it's like there's some kind of achievable linear goal of like, now I'm 5. Yeah. This happens. I'm. Right. I suppose that's one way to look at it, right?
Yeah, right. And we sort of go, and sort of the education system sort of says, okay, well, when you're in year 3, but when you get to year 4, things are going to be serious, and then when you get to secondary school, it's going to be serious, and then when you finish secondary school, it's like, you got to go to college.
You got to go to work now. You've got to,
and then you got to go to university. Then you got to go to university. And then you got to go to work, and then you're going to get retirement. And it's just kind of linear, constantly like. And the funny thing about kids being so excited about getting older is that adults have the exact same language game, only the inverse. Like now it's like, I can't believe it, and as if there was this sort of spike. In which
there's an implication that there's. We need to talk about that.
It's an implication that we're sort of. We're sort of going up this sort of very happy hill to 21, which seems to be that perfect 18 to 21 seems that perfect moment, and then you go down as you go.
I think
it's weird because the actual happiness meter is reversed. Yeah. So kids are more happy; they get less and less happy than 18 to 21. And after 21, they actually start getting happier again on average. It's almost like the anticipation for things to be good actually make things bad, make things worse.
Especially when you don't get what you anticipated.
Right.
Some people might expect that they get married with like a soulmate at age 25. Yeah. Some people won't care, but some people might get to that age and then be sort of like, I suppose a similar thing to kind of like go on that as well is that a lot of people that we know, just fucking loads of people, do have this fear of like getting older. I think I'm happier at 25 than I was at 20, man. Because I've like learned things over that course of time. My perception of things have changed. And I've got different ethics. I've got different kind of like viewpoints on the world, and I've kind of got similar, like slightly different kind of goals and things and desires that I want to do in life. Yeah. And I think some people don't realize that like when they think that kind of when they're 60, they're going to be like, just like broken, and it's like your current self has your current self can make an impact on who your future self will be, just by treating yourself well and keeping in good health, for example. Or you forget that by the age that you're 60, if you're a person that wants kids or has kids or something, you get to see your kids now as adults and like living that stage of their life. Or when you're 60. Maybe you've got some sick pay and you're in retirement now. I don't know. That's a bit of an odd hypothetical. But if you've got some kind of goal that is 10 year, a lot. Some people have like a 10-year goal sort of thing. It is just one of those sort of situations, isn't it? With minor and major goals, you will know that like by the end of that time, you've got to that milestone. I don't know sort of where I'm going with this. And what I'm trying to say is that being 40 years old is like not the fucking end of the world. And then a lot of 20-year-olds think that, and I don't know why. Maybe because they look at their parents and think that they're boring people or something. I don't know. My parents are like 60 or so, and they're fucking like fresh as hell. They're like, so I suppose I personally don't have any fear of like being at that age and being like decrepit. I like to think of myself in like a.
You could be healthier now than you are now. You could be healthier then
At that point than now, right?
Than you are now.
You could do, yeah. It could be like drinking less, smoking less, or like just or you've got maybe you're working less as well. That's a bit of a tricky thing to think about though, because obviously retirement in this country is.
You could be obsessed with fasting and looking after your body and all the rest of it.
You don't know. You don't know what like it's going to happen. It's a long way away.
And this is a really strange thing with people where they like. It is all based, like, the sort of time idea, I'm getting older, I hate it, is just sort of based on, like, you know, like, all these weird assumptions that you didn't ask for.
And they don't even exist, mostly.
And they don't even exist,
They're just paranoia. It's kind of like...
It's like this, I mean, like, I went for a jam with my friend Matthew a few days ago. And he said something very interesting. He sort of said, he said that... to be self-conscious is to become like psychopathic, like not psychopathic, but like is to sort of go insane. You can't be self-conscious without being insane. And this is the very interesting. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about. Like, you know, this idea that we have to inherit these sort of conceptual structures that don't belong to us. We didn't ask for and don't exist. And you know, all these sorts of strange things of people like, you know, fighting to work because, you know, and yet at the same time being afraid that they're getting older, and people, you know, I don't know, getting a nice looking place to impress people that they don't really care about, and just and you know, making it's you know, I'd really interested to find more major concepts to talk about, because it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of material to talk about, but like, you know, like relationships with other people as well. Like, you know, people feel as if they have to be wedged in between certain peoples in order to feel normal. As if, you know, you can't be too introverted, you can't be too extroverted, you can't be doing this, you can't be doing this, you can't be doing this, and it does just sort of turn into this like nonsense, this game of like this sort of. You know, I these are the people that I have to be around, and I can't just disappear when I want to and move to Svalbard, or I don't know if that's what you want to do, but like, you know, you know, a lot of people are miserable where they are, and they don't want to move. They still don't move, and they don't, you know. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but like,
people have said it though. Let's see, back like years back. Some people kind of like talk about wanting to get out of Folkestone, and some people do, and then some people stay out. Some people will come back, like I did. Then it's kind of like if you're unhappy, maybe you should sort of you've got to get past that blockage.
A lot of it comes down to just these ideas we have of what it means to be in relationships with other people. For example.
What it means to move away.
I mean, like when I moved to Finland, you know, I was luckily, the psychosis kind of helped with that, because I didn't like, I didn't feel as though I was attached to anyone because I was crazy, but it actually helped in a lot of ways, because in the sense that.
I suppose it stops things holding you back.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't feel held back by people, and I think I'm trying to balance like both forces here when I'm thinking about moving to Brighton and sort of being like, well. You know, I don't want to be held back by anyone. I don't. You know, like I was talking to you when I was quite sleep deprived, as I am now, about like, you know, I'm talking about I've created a new friendship with someone, and we both had similar experiences of getting way too close to people and getting everyone getting really damaged from it, and we ended up coming to the agreement that we should meet up, but not meet up often. And that's going to be like the perfect friendship for us both, and we really like each other's company, but we don't want to get close at all.
I think I remember what you meant.
And I sort of came to this realization that like we are alone, we are all completely alone, but that's exactly the way it should be and the way we want it, because if we were stuck with people, we would go crazy. We would
I'm sure you'd have
absolutely.
less freedom in a sense, wouldn't
You'd
you?
have
Because
you'd have no freedom. in
you'd
some
kind
ways.
of have to, in a sense, I suppose, appeal to their idea of a good time or whatever. You know what I mean? Or if you to put an extreme example, if you're hanging out with someone that you like don't want to hang out with, and you might feel obliged, even if they're not kind of trying to bring out any outwardly expression of it, you might still just accidentally just feel obliged to sort of like have to. What's the word? Appeal? Is that the word?
Appeal, yeah, I
but
think
like
so.
adjust what you're doing to suit what you think that they want or something. I don't know. And it's at the expense of yourself. It's an agreeability issue, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because then you're just torturing yourself over sort of doing what someone else wants, but they might not even want that. They might want to do what you want to do or something, or not care what you're doing, etc. Although I suppose if we were always around each other, that would obviously change the culture of it, because we would probably start to talk about those things. But obviously, as it stands now, if we all kind of like forced ourselves to integrate with each other, introverted people especially would probably go a little bit like not really want to express kind of what their
I think
interests
everyone.
are.
I think
Probably a lot
everyone,
of people live, sure, yeah.
You know, I think I don't know. After a while, this sort of idea that there are certain people. I mean, like it's different with families or whatever. But even then, I don't actually think it's different, because eventually
Those concepts attach to families as well.
eventually your kids have to leave, and you want them to leave because
still
you want them to go off and do things themselves.
Yeah.
To hold them back is to injure them.
You've also got like similar connotations with family, in that you're like supposed to stick together, even if there's a reason you shouldn't or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can to a much easier an extent, you can choose who your friends are, but you can't choose who your family are. You could get two twin sisters that just turn out to just not get along with each other, but they can get along.
I've known two.
They can get along with other people independently, and they don't have to interact just because they're family. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is healthy for them to interact a little bit here and there, family functions and stuff. But it shouldn't be something that you have to force. It's like we're supposed to sit down at the table and eat dinner, especially at Christmas because we're a family. And it's like I quite like that because I get along with my family. But even more so that I don't live with them anymore, because then it's when you do see them, it's niche and
that's kind of but you it's kind of because you got to be alone, you know.
It's because I've exactly. I've got my privacy now.
And if we were together all the time, we would. We may not even realize how it would affect us, but as soon as we left each other, we'd be we'd have this sort of uncanny freedom of oh my god, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
yeah, crazy stuff. Do
you remember the concept of a glass of water versus if the glass of water is a art piece? What was that all about?
Oh yeah, I had a coffee. I don't know. Was it a date? It was just with a friend. Is it still a date? A coffee date?
And that's a concept, isn't it?
It's a concept.
Because it's the
I had a meeting.
I had a coffee-based meeting
with
Why is that at 35? And then earlier it was on 42. It's the watch. It's some sort of average shit. That's
it's the average watch time. How weird is that?
I think it's based off of because there's an extra person coming in. I thought it was how long the actual video has been going on for.
No, it's not. I don't.
Be on here, I reckon.
Yeah, I don't. Now it's 29.
Oh my god, it's counting at 30 now. What the fuck?
Because we just got another watcher.
Is it because it's calculating the average of how long it's been watched from the first person that began watching? That's a really weird system.
That's so weird.
It's really strange.
Yeah, we've been recording for an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
54 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that was when you had the screen.
It was.
Yeah. Because I think it's been about 45-ish. Well, it doesn't matter. A glass of water.
Yeah, so I had a coffee meeting conversation with Catherine. We were sort of talking about how nothing has any inherent meaning attached to it. But art is a very interesting thing insofar that people, I think it gives people access to the things as they are, divorced of meaning because we always attach meaning to things, but they're never there. They sort of like
Do you think
conceptual meaning.
is that similar to you would gain something else out of that than I would, that art piece, because you're not supposed to when you present an art piece, it may not, well, depending on kind of how the artist wants to do it, is you may not necessarily be like, I want you to feel this particular emotion. It's kind of just like thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, I mean, yeah. So when you actually,
I suppose the way to go on it is, if you're looking at just the glass of water right now, what does it tell you?
Well, exactly. What it tells me now is, I mustn't spill my laptop because my laptop's bad. I need to drink because I need to stay hydrated. But when do I next?
I need to grab from the handle because
grab the handle. Yeah, all these sorts of things. All these sorts of things. But when it's in the space of art, these meanings aren't there. But there's a sort of reality. There's a sort of this sort of.
You're looking at it from a reality perspective because it's not plagued by everything else.
Yes,
it's kind of
exactly. There's sort of. We actually finally
see
sort of
what it is,
we actually
right?
we kind of gain access to how it really is because
it's being presented only as a glass of water.
Yes,
it's not being presented as the a helpful glass of water that you have in the exam because it helps your brain function. Right? That's what you'd have, like when you do an exam at school. Normally they'd encourage you to bring some water in a bottle, and then that's as well another thing you want to spill on like whatever. Choke on it or something. If you're seeing just a glass of water, how it is, it's just a glass of water. You can kind of get a similar feel when you look at nature because it's just that's just how it is.
Exactly.
That's a forest because it's a forest, and that's a river stream because it's a river stream.
and other forms of beauty, you know, like when you see beauty, you know, for as long as you don't feel like you're attached to it, like, you know, a beautiful person or whatever. It is just this spacious nothingness that surrounds them, and it engulfs you into it, and you're sort of like, what am I supposed to do? And Kant had a kind of similar kind of idea of like nature or art. Nature is disinterested. You know, it doesn't care whether you're old or young, black or white.
What was that?
You see it for how. What it doesn't care. You know.
Do you remember that poem on that train in London that said that very thing?
I don't remember.
Do you ever sit on your phone? Because it was kind
my
of
phone broke.
yeah, okay. Because it was a little poem that kind of said something similar to that. It was sort of saying, I don't know if it was like a concept thing. It kind of directly implied, but it was sort of to say that in nature, what happens is just sort of like of its own. I don't know, man. I can't remember how. I can't.
Yeah.
I wonder if
it was just sort of like, it was like, oh god, I don't remember. It was like something to do with like, how wonderful it is that, you know, the language of nature is spoken through itself.
Oh right, there was no. I think it was to say there is no language in nature, in a way, because it's kind of just like, it doesn't have concepts to it. The wind through the trees makes a noise. Just because, like, the wind makes a noise through the trees, it's not communicating any kind of, like... You once said that... Yeah, you once said that when you speak, in your book it says, when you speak, you're kind of implying something needs to change in the current state of the world, in that you want to ask someone for, like, a loaf of bread, because you're kind of oppressing that idea into the world. Whereas nature just kind of acts as it acts. Yeah, it doesn't kind of oppress you to unless there's obviously like natural disasters and things. That's something's going to come and oppress you in some way. But it kind of just acts out. Yeah. There's no language in nature.
Exactly.
No.
What are you looking for?
I was gonna like try and Google some terms, but I can't.
Oh, yeah.
The language of nature. No language in nature.
What are we looking
Poem.
for?
Type in like poem.
Poem.
No language in nature.
London Tube ad. I mean, like
it might. It might be linked to that. Because it's a pretty snazzy little.
Okay, poems on the underground. This might be it.
Oh yeah. Can you see with the sunglasses on?
Yeah.
Really? I can barely.
No.
I think we're good.
I mean, I've got pink glasses.
Yeah.
This will take a while. I don't want to bore people.
Let's grab one anyway.
I don't know. It's just able.
Let's read a poem. Let's read a random one.
Okay.
This is unrelated, somewhat.
I don't know if we should read a poem.
Why not? It'll be fun. It gives us purpose to the reason that we searched it up.
Okay, we'll end with a poem, and then and then in the meantime, anyone can like
chuck out some questions,
questions,
anything that you want us to maybe.
Depending if anyone's even watching, like if anyone's got any questions about what we spoke about or any criticisms, just like go for it. And I'll just check my messages here, and then yeah. So I shall look at the grass till I obtain the degree of Doctor of Grass. I shall look at clouds till I become a master of clouds.
That's kind of interesting.
I shall walk beside the smoke till out of shame the smoke returns to the flame of its beginning. I shall walk beside all things till all things come to know me. What do you think of that? It's like perseverance. It's kind of very, very strangely not what we were talking about. Kind of like
strangely is. I quite like the first bit though, with like I should look at the grass till I obtain a degree of Doctor of Grass.
Yeah,
implying that if you kind of like involve yourself in something so much, you would just become it. I don't know. Perseverance obviously is a much different word. I don't know what that guy's trying to.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of concept he was trying to like portray, if anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So if anyone hasn't got any questions, because then I guess we'll just wrap it up. And there we are.
There we are.
So this has been a lovely test
of a live stream.
Of a live stream, yeah.
I'd love to do perhaps a live one with our vocalist of Wimstone, Manny, myself, and him. Like a couple of movies that we've usually watched. Yeah. Korean movies in particular. So they're different, man. When you get yourself involved in some kind of media production from outside of where you're normally looking. Oh shit, No Wave cinema as well. That's a fucking weird one. Anyone familiar with No Wave? The music is what's No Wave? It's just like avant-garde, isn't it? Really weird. It's the opposite of new wave, and it was like
it's the opposite,
right?
It's like the rebellion against new wave. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think no wave cinema is in that sort of similar way, kind of trying to be different as much as possible. I suppose they're trying not to like really not to follow like regular conventions, which I guess we'll go on to in the next podcast.
Yeah,
that'll be about movies and media and Korean films and old films from the 50s, like 12 Angry Men. That's a fucking banger, that is. Love that film.
12 Angry Men's amazing.
12 Angry Men is in one room, isn't it? Other than the court. So you've got the courtroom kind of area, and then the entire rest of the film is in that one jury sort of like discussion section.
Most it's pretty much all in that one room.
When I was kind of like when I was starting to watch Twilight Zone, I noticed that the dialogue was really like, it captivated me somehow. It compelled me in a way that like it's some kind of boring, drab, black and white like visuals, but then just listening to how the actors are like pulling their characters out and just the writing on the scripts, I can imagine that there's a different emphasis. If you look at like old horror films, they might have quite a I'm trying to say it for what was going on during that time. Even though if you've got like the zombie, that's something still very new to the cinema, isn't it? Yeah. Even if it doesn't look great by today's standards.
Yeah.
There's a different. I suppose it's like saying that the progression of production is not linear. It's very much dynamic, because whereas you get better with like CGI and cool special effects, and the quality of cameras and just like another sort of like cool director sort of things with how you're telling the story. Back in the day, they may have focused way more on just the dialogue, getting into a character and being relatable and stuff. And there's different things. You could watch a really cool action movie nowadays, like Avengers, and it's got all this like banging action shit.
Yeah.
But then if you watch The Handmaiden, which is a slightly erotic Korean film, but the story that it tells and how it tells it is like fucking mind blowing. It's one of the best movies I've watched.
Cool, man.
Yeah, that's a fucking crazy
You
film.
gotta make a list, and you gotta We'll make a movie.
We'll just watch a couple, and we'll get Manny to chat about films. I'm sure he'd love to talk about horror films as well.
We could literally call the podcast Grindcore Band Reviews Movies.
Sounds sick.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? All right, I'm gonna thank our honourable mentions, our Pedging Plate patrons. We thank Oliver, who says, "Yeah, I'll drink to that." We thank Rachel, who says, "Communism is for life, not just for Christmas." We thank Manny, who says, "Long live Wombstone." We thank Karoz, who says, "Nothing yet." And we thank Maisie, who says 9/11 was an inside job.
Still
not
every time.
Every time I.
If we know any, do you know anyone who's like quite into that particular conspiracy?
Yeah, I don't know actually. I don't know.
It's just
I'd be
we'll
good to
talk about it.
My
with
mum, but we don't
I
talk
know,
about
yeah.
it. So.
anyone who, I suppose when you upload this, put a little.
Yeah, if anyone wants.
Because this is the end of the video. If not
I'll
everyone's
drink
gonna
to
see it,
that.
innit?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to.
Just make a status saying anyone who's talk about 9/11. Let's get on the show.
We had someone who wants to talk about the IRA and an alternative viewpoint.
Was that?
No.
Dave?
Yeah,
No,
yeah. I mean, like, just keep it quiet, just in case.
Little secret. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Keep it
no.
quiet.
Bit of subtlety.
Yeah.
Bit of security.
All right.
All right.
So, have a great evening, morning, afternoon, everyone. Get some good sleep. Sleep's very important. And we will see you at the next podcast or vlog. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.